miss that electric opening. Welcome back to the Weeaboo Corner, and today I am very excited to be getting back into a classic series that I reviewed when it released months ago, and then ordered the second one, pre-ordered it, and the third one, and then forgot to talk about them because I was burnt out and just bored. Yes, we're reviewing Volume 2, and fairly soon we'll be going over Volume 3 of Fist of the North Star by Buronson and Tetsuo Hara, released back in late 2021, I believe it was in September, reviewed by me 5 months late. Yes, we're getting to this 5 months after the fact that it came out. I need to be more center in the shot. My only reason for the huge-ass delay of this review was very simple, and just a mad case of burnout. Like, I had this on my shelf looking at it, I read it twice, I tried writing it, I could not film it, and I could not edit it. And I just didn't want to work on it. So without further ado, please leave a like on this video and subscribe. Now we can finally get into Fist of the North Star, Volume 2. Volume 2 picks up immediately where Volume 1 ends, repeating the final panels of Volume 1, with Kenshiro fighting the Red Beret army, all while injured by the blood-sucking needle knives attack from the Mad Sarge, one of the high-ranking members of the Golan, a gang of thieves of militaristic brutes that pride themselves on genetic superiority. And to the point of the final drill, for those who wish to join the Red Berets' armies and ranks, is to kill all the other recruits in an all-out battle royale. Anyways, Kenshiro uses Hokuto Shinken to suck in and repel the blood-sucking needle knives from his body, saving him from death, and wipes out all the Red Beret recruits using his standard martial arts training, but saves the Mad Sarge for last. He strikes his pressure points and waterboards him to get the location of the colonel, the leader of the Red Beret army. But as Kenshiro leaves the Mad Sarge, he attempts another attack, only to have his guts shoot out the front and the back of his stomach and his face caved in. Brutal death. Kenshiro moves towards the colonel's location and spots a guard hiding within a statue and promptly kills him, only for the colonel to appear behind him, and after a short exchange, the colonel explains his reasoning for building the city and structure of God's land and the Red Beret army. Before the nuclear apocalypse, the Red Beret army was the special force of the special forces, basically a Call of Duty main character on crack, speed, and LSD. That is how bad guys and renowned these dudes were. And then, above all else, they were an army of men, honor, and loyalty. But after a while, the army was used as a publicity piece by the upper brass. So when the colonel went to the top brass for an explanation of this choice and change, he was humiliated and disgusted that those giving the orders were fat bastards made up of high-ranking military officials and industrial titans. They had discovered that the colonel was planning a coup, and to ensure their profits, yet self-interest, they launched the missiles and pulled the trigger of a nuclear apocalypse, sending us into the future where we are today at this point of the story. The top brass were incinerated by the flames, yet the men that made up the Red Beret army survived due to their high intensive training. But the colonel used their survival as a call from God, believing that the Red Berets were chosen by God to survive the nuclear apocalypse. And with no questions left from Kenshiro, a fight between Ken and the colonel begins. Using his boomerangs of death, the colonel lands the first strikes, and upon his discovery of Kenshiro's mastery of Hokuto Shinken, goes all out, revealing he uses the Chinese martial art form Nanto Monken, or the Silent Fist of the South Star. He uses these bladed fingers to attempt to cut Kenshiro to shreds, and after multiple choice calls, Ken closes his eyes and utilizes minute air and eye movements to find out where the colonel is moving towards and beats him down. But before he can finish the fight, the young girl from earlier, Rin, busts open to help Ken, but she becomes an immediate target, and Ken is able to save her in the nick of time, but is stabbed in the bicep. Thankfully, he shrugs it off like it's nothing, and the colonel begins to scream and swipe blindly as Kenshiro has removed his vision in his blur of hits. Ken walks towards the colonel and jabs his finger into his forehead, giving the best death in the manga and anime so far. His face flattens and his skeleton shoots out from his back in a beautiful bloody and gory fashion. There's a cut to Kenshiro, Bat, and Lin resting back at the bar where he was originally told of God's lands and the Red Beret army in Volume 1, where he's confronted by two members of Jackal's gang as he's well-built and strong. But after they discover his 7 scars, they begin a small fight, Kenshiro quickly beating them down. Earlier, Ken saved a kid from falling off a bridge, and that kid walked right into the same bar, and Bat recognizes this kid from his old family. Their group has been having some trouble with the old woman, Aunt Toya, taking care of them. as she's been overworking herself to try and find a water spring deep underground. Jackal overhears this conversation and kills the 2 gang members that were feeling up Kenshiro for trying to fight him after discovering his scars. Kenshiro goes out to help Aunt Toya behind the local water stream and works all day to help her. At night, Jackal's gang strikes, figuring that Kenshiro is too exhausted to fight. Aunt Toya is able to hold her own for about 5 seconds before she's overpowered and beaten down, but saved by Kenshiro at the last second. But wait, there's more. Before Jackal can be killed, he runs off to a prison and sets free a huge, hulking monolith being known only as the Devil, arrested for countless murders and massacring full cities and civilians, sentenced to innumerable life sentences because they just couldn't kill him. The Devil is a large, building brick fridge of a man, and is freed by Jackal but manipulated into fighting Kenshiro. But what emerges from those shadows, I can't even call him. What emerges from those darkness is a large, hulking beast monster that fights and holds his own against Kenshiro for a good while, until his chest explodes outward, leaving him paralyzed on the ground. As he struggles to get towards Jackal to have him set free, he attempts to run off, but is grabbed by the Devil, asking for help again, and is blown up as Kenshiro walks off looking like a badass. While Kenshiro is off fighting Jackal and the Devil, Bat and Rin were searching for a village to stay in and hide, and they found one, and they were willing to take them in, as long as Kenshiro had gotten rid of their bandit problem. Kenshiro is accepted to the task, and luckily he's not the only one to do so. A man named Ray, a master of his own form of Fist of the South Star, who is on his own personal journey for the man with the 7 scars that kidnapped his younger sister. But this village is led by an absolutely gorgeous woman whose resemblance to Kenshiro's dead fiancée, Yuria, is uncanny. And this is where Volume 2 wraps up. Now onto my opinions on everything, but we're going to go quick because I want to talk about Volume 3, which is wicked cool. Volume 2 opens up with Kenshiro basically fighting fake Nazis. It's an army that utilizes the striking color of red, led by a striking... Volume 2 opens up with basically Kenshiro fighting fake Nazis. It's an army that utilizes the striking color of red both in their name and in their clothing, led by a man with several striking facial features, and a sergeant whose hair is blonde. There's always a bigger fish to fry with Fist of the North Star arcs, which is actually why I like the moments with the red berets, even though it's incredibly short since, well, they're a fucking army, so it makes sense with them. As does the Colonel's motivations. They're pretty sound, even if a crucial point is missed in the paper translation, so I actually had to stitch one together for the synopsis and review. Basically, I'm going to have to go into detail on how I make these a bit. I write them up, I read them, and then I write them up, and then I edit everything together after filming. And when I edit them, I need scans of the manga, so I have visual aids to show what I'm talking about that aren't just taken from my phone. And in this case, there is a panel without any dialogue when the Colonel is going over his like motivations for starting God's Land and the Red Beret Army within the Apocalypse. That doesn't have any dialogue; it just has Kenshiro's face. So my best guess is that something was left out. So, given that they are trying to protect their self-interest, their funding and money, and to get rid of all their problems in one foul swoop, that it was some sort of coup or a big public display of this is who was leading us, yada yada yada. And so the Colonel starting a coup was actually made by me, considering he was ashamed at who was giving his orders, and that he decided and that he dedicated his life to fat ugly pigs who have more power in each of their fingers than their entire armies put together, and that they launched nuclear missiles to ensure their profits and get rid of all their problems instead of just closing and shutting down the Red Berets. So I made a guess, and hopefully I was right, or at least fairly close, but we'll know after I gather the scans and send them all to my horribly beaten editor. I like that the Red Beret members, most namely those with actual names, have some of the cooler deaths of the manga so far. Sure, there are more iconic ones, like the very first one where Kenshiro says you are already dead. But seeing a guy's flesh and blood being blown to literal shitterines and have his skeleton blow everywhere, that's pretty fucking rad. Come on. And it was left uncensored in the anime, which I think is very neat. I did glaze over the portion of Aunt Toya with her water spring and orphanage being Bat's family and Jackal's gang, But it's very standard stuff. A large gang attacks one MacGuffin and is killed off, but the leader gets away and strikes back, ultimately causing his own demise. But with the devil being literally a really, really hairy Hulk, that is just damn funny because Kenshiro does no damage to him until he powers up, which I don't think he's done in the second volume, so seeing it happen again was pretty cool. What is interesting with Jackal is that he doesn't even fight Kenshiro one-on-one. He manipulates others into doing it for him, or by using grenades or dynamite, which is fairly interesting for a Fist of the North Star antagonist instead of just running up to him and trying to fight, which then it just becomes a Monster of the Week thing. But with Jackal, I think that was a fairly cool change. Very interesting as well to see. And at last, we're introduced to a new village, a new woman, and a new man. I have already read Volume 3, sue me, and I know jack shit about the village, other than it's a nice place that offers to take care of Bat and Rin, and it's run by an absolutely drop-dead gorgeous woman. And this was written back in the 80s, and she's actually a badass. She holds her own on multiple occasions with only 1 or 2 lines that do the really fucking retarded, shitty, beaten, or you were beaten or outsmarted by a woman thing. And then one of them not even being that bad because it's done in a reply to a villain being a villain. And the new guy, Ray, the master of his own version of Fist of the South Star, because apparently there's like 5,000 variants of it. Like, seriously, that was all the villains in Volume 1. I'm a master of this type of variant of South Star Fist. This guy who's a master of his own craft. He's also a bit of a scumbag who, despite kicking ass with Kenshiro, I kind of hate, but I love his mane. In conclusion, read this shit. It's really good. 8 out of 10. I've been Sloppy of the Weeaboo Corner, and I will see you later